When I finished doing the texture, I was ready to prime and paint. And even if you find a lot of the paints have primer in them now, but if you put mud or drywall compound on the wall, you need to use a primer, especially for walls that have never been painted. So I primed it first, then I painted it. This is called Simplify Beige from Sherwin-Williams in Eggshell. And one thing I do before I paint, especially if I do texture on the wall, is I go ahead and caulk the corners because the texture tends to kind of gather in the corners, and so I caulk the corners to get a nice smooth edge. And also I'll just go around with a little taping knife and just kind of anything that's real rough or sticking out more than I want it to, just kind of scrape it off a little bit, and then I'm ready to prime and paint. And now that I have already done the priming and the painting, now we're going to work on the ceiling. So after I finished painting, this ceiling has a popcorn ceiling on it, which is fine, but we don't want to keep it that way. We want to put pine boards on the ceiling, and I am not capable of doing that.
Pine boards on the ceiling.
So this is Eric, my husband, who's going to be doing the ceiling. And so what he did first was he measured out the ceiling to figure out how many boards he was going to need. And then also he took his, do you have your stud finder? This stud finder to find the ceiling joists, which are the studs in the wall, only on the ceiling. So anyway, he marked those out so that when he nails the pine, he can nail them into
The ceiling joists.
the ceiling joists. And then he is going to use a, what do you call this?
Pneumatic nail gun.
Pneumatic nail gun. Okay.
Air gun.
Air gun. It makes a lot of noise. I've never done that before, and I don't plan on it. Now, if you don't have this special kind of nail gun, is there anything else that you would use to attach this wood to the ceiling, or you probably just wouldn't tackle it?
You could screw the wood to the ceiling, or you could nail it by hand, but you'd want to keep in mind that you're going to be holding the boards on the ceiling, so it would be a lot more difficult. When you have a nail gun, you just hold it up, shoot them in, and they're in, and it's done.
But you could maybe use a drill and screw them in, and then you would just have to go deeper than flush and then fill the hole, right?
Correct.
Okay, so you could do it without the pneumatic nailer.
But that would be stupid.
That would be stupid. Okay, so here we go.
That's his.
Down here it's nice and flush.
Right. All right, could you hand me my tappers? You tap your end. I got this. Just tap it down towards me.
These are the pine boards before we did a light sand and a polyacrylic coat on them. They have tongue and groove. See here? This is the tongue, and that sticks into the groove. Now, it's designed to actually be applied like this. This would be the face of it, but it's got this bevel here, and we didn't want the bevel, so we actually installed ours on the reverse to where the underside is what shows. So we are done with the bedroom remodel, and I will show you some pictures, but I wanted to just kind of talk about how we decided to go with pine on the ceiling and knotty alder on the doors. We wanted knotty alder for all of our trim, but it gets a little pricey, so we decided to go with pine for the ceilings. But in the pictures, I don't know if you agree, but I think mixing the woods, I think it looks fine. So also I showed you some up-close pictures of how the texture worked out once it was painted. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Thanks for joining me, and I will see you next time.